Welcome everyone. I'm so thrilled to be back in Bangkok at the Corsair headquarters again with Jussi Saloranta, the CEO of Corsair, to introduce you to the latest developments of what Corsair has been doing, creating in the world in terms of impact with a business model that is so unique and so powerful that it literally has the power, the potential to change the world. Why? Because we're putting a monetary value on something which had no value so far, and that we called waste. But in nature, right, Jay, there is no such thing as waste. Everything is circular. So not only Corsair is becoming the world leader for circular economy as far as chemical recycling of plastic is concerned, but it's doing it with a human engine through the power of network marketing. Hello, Jay, and thanks for having me again at your incredible headquarters in the center of Bangkok.
Thank you very much. Great to see you again. It's our third time of doing this, so it's always a pleasure to have you and great to see you.
It is our third time, and it is actually marking my return to Morocco, where I'm going to be so excited to develop Corsair Connect even more than I was doing before, right before I came for our annual convention of 2025, where I got the reward of the Rising Star for the year 2025, and it's been quite a ride since then. Actually, I did not want to leave Asia. There is so much going on. It's so exciting here. There is so much dynamism. And when we consider where the world is heading right now with the war here, the war there, actually, it feels pretty safe and pretty promising for the future to be in Bangkok and Southeast Asia in general. And it's quite, I would say, an incredible opportunity that Corsair is based here.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, I mean, we are in the middle of major world events at the moment. We're recording this in the early part of April 2026. And without going too much into world politics, one thing that we can definitely say and see is that during these type of world events, crisis situations like we're now seeing in the Middle East, what has become very clear for everybody, and especially with us at Corsair, is that we are on the right business model, we are on the right business, obviously cleaning the planet, which is our main mission. But on top of that, we're able to provide the much needed oil and chemical products made from plastic waste, which the countries are urgently in need right now. We spoke about this briefly before we started filming, and I wanted to share my latest take on this, where over the last weeks, when the situation in the Middle East has been escalating, and we'll see where things head from here. But we've definitely seen the need of locally produced oil and chemicals, which will continue and can be produced and are not impacted by these international supply disruptions like we've seen, for example, now in the Persian Gulf. Now, what we've experienced here in Thailand and where we see Corsair being heading now is truly of becoming a part of a national security strategy where everybody's focus has been and the discussions have been about the shortages of fuel, but at the same time, what is sort of maybe not publicized as much are the major shortages in chemicals which are needed by the packaging industry. We've seen articles, we've seen statements recently made even here in Thailand by the major packaging manufacturers who are saying that not only are we running out of fuel and gas, which contributes into energy in the country, but also from chemicals to produce this packaging that we need for our daily lives. So therefore, we strongly believe that this situation that we're experiencing right now, and which there will be more in the future. Who knows what type of crisis, but these things will come occasionally. And it has now placed Corsair to become even more important when it comes to national security, where we can actually operate inside the country, completely unattached to whatever happens outside of the country with logistics and such. And we can, inside the country, be there to clean the environment from all of this plastic garbage and then turn that into these extremely valuable and high demand chemical products, which again can be used by the packaging industry to create more sustainable, more friendlier packaging for our daily lives.
Let's say that the world is heading in the direction that Corsair has been pretty much preparing without knowing necessarily that it would reach such an incredible necessity. But it is more than ever necessary that we deal with the concept of pollution itself. Because personally, I am convinced that the environmental pollution is just the consequence of individual pollution, because of the limiting belief that people hold, because of the disempowering beliefs, because of the false beliefs, because of the fear of lacking money, because all the way that the world has been structured is so that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So of course fear has become the norm, and the fear of lack, and therefore people try to accumulate more and more, and that creates, when they don't need 2 or 3 or 4 devices of this world, to just throw them away. So it becomes trash. So what Corsair has been creating is nothing short but genius. It's just genius. And the more we see the direction that the world is taking, the more we realize just how needed this solution is. So now I believe that the key is to make it as global, as holistic, as accessible in as many countries as possible in the world. And I would love to have your take on what you and the rest of the team at Corsair Corporate have been putting in place so that it becomes easier and easier for us marketers to actually introduce other people to what we're doing, so that we can actually spread the word, spread the good news that we have a solution to end the pollution, and that we as individuals don't have to wait for corporations and governments to take action. We can be literally the solution makers, because Corsair, with its incredible business model, has laid the foundations for us to just do the job. So if you could fill us up on the latest developments that Corsair has created, has put in place to make our job easier and to get the word out faster.
In any situation where you can take other people's garbage that nobody wants and you can turn that into a valuable, high-quality raw material, you could say that you're in the right place. A lot of things has to come into action. A lot of things has to come into realization before that concept begins to work. But I think that we are now at a stage as a company where there is no more doubt on any level if what we are doing works, if it's for real, if it's duplicatable, if it can be expanded and just taken to every corner around the world. Our mission right now has obviously been initially to provide a strong proof of concept, which we've already done a couple of years ago, and then recently to build that strong initial foundation, which then provides us the platform for future expansion. My opinion is that we start to now be at the sort of very end, on the finalization stage of that, where our operations in Europe, more precisely in Finland, are now starting to move towards commercial production phase, which will be a massive achievement again for the company, and especially in Europe. And at the same time here in Asia, we continue to expand our production capacity and just building up those recycling volumes and obviously production volumes of the pyrolysis oil, which we then supply for our international offtake partners. So this being the case, I think that with every new machine that gets installed in any one of our factories, with every single new project where we expand our operations to, with every new country where we expand with our industrial operations, all of these are major news which obviously contribute into that foundation, which again, the partners of the Corsair Connect company who are out there in the world to tell our story, to distribute our message and educate people about our mission can use in their benefit to provide more substance for the story. Now, we are still, and I always want to highlight this, we are in a very, very early stages. We are part of an amazing industry where we basically have, you could say, an unlimited amount of raw material to be recycled when you look at it from the business point of view. At the same time, of course, it's an unfortunate situation because that means that our planet is truly choking on all of this plastic garbage. And we, on our part, at the same time, of course, while we're building a business and we approach it from a very capitalistic point of view, we obviously always have our main focus on the impact that we can do for the environment and to the lives of the people that either are part of working together with us through the number of opportunities, primarily through Corsair Connect, but also how we can, in the best way, improve the lives of the people that truly need our help. I'd like to expand this to what we can see happening right now with the implementation of more and more AI, artificial intelligence, in number of different industries. I believe it was one of the heads of the large AI companies who basically recently predicted that in the next less than a year, most of these normal white-collar office jobs, including accountants and general office workers, will be replaced by AI agents. And that means that, and I would like to say that I don't agree and I don't really want to agree with the statement that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But unfortunately, one thing that is for sure is that the middle class is going to lose a lot. So it probably does contribute, as you said, because from the business owner's point of view, the fact that you will be able to replace a lot of your normal office work with AI agents that will cost you $100 a month, that can do the basic office work that you today hire full-time employees to do, it's going to disrupt the employment market. There's no question about it. We can say it doesn't, but it will, 100%. It doesn't maybe immediately result in a lot of layoffs, which we've seen already happening in different companies around the world, where people are simply laid off because the work can now be moved and allocated to AI agents. But it will definitely reduce the lack of new employment. So when a company is looking to employ a new person to help on their office works, it will be a question to be asked. Should we hire somebody as a full-time employee, pay, depending on the country, maybe $1,000 or $5,000 a month? Or should we just get an AI agent that can probably do most of the work for $100 a month? It will definitely have an impact. And that means that with the rapidly increasing inflation, which we've now seen again because of the situation in the Middle East, with everything increasing. With fuel prices increasing, it contributes into everything. The cost of food, the cost of energy, cost of cooling, cost of heating, everything around us is getting more expensive. So the value of your money in your bank account, or the value, the purchasing power of your paycheck, is continuously getting smaller. And therefore, it is becoming hugely, hugely important for everybody to start looking at how they can create their additional extra income from something that you can do as a side work additionally to your main occupation. Home-based businesses have, during the last decades, have always shown to grow during the times of crisis. We saw that during COVID, with all the lockdowns, where people were now unable to go to work and do their normal occupation. The people that had an extra income coming from their home-based business were able to still look after themselves and their families, of course, assuming that that business was supportive and large enough, but at least it would help them to maintain and to survive in these times of crisis. And I believe that it is becoming now more important than ever to look at how you as an individual, how can you create additional income, something that you can do from the comfort of your home, something that you can operate online, and in our case, you are working with a company that is here to save the planet from this plastic pollution, and you're getting paid while telling our story, distributing our message, and educating more and more people about these opportunities. I think that's a game changer, and I think that with everything that's happening around the world right now, things are looking better and better for Corsair, and also proving that our strategic placement on the market and in these industries is absolutely spot on. No matter if you talk about the fact that it's a very good time to be in the oil business, absolutely. It's a very good time to be in a affiliate marketing, network marketing, home-based business industry. And it's also very, very good to be in a environmental services aligned with the already existing and newly incoming ESG, CSR, and sustainability requirements that we're seeing implemented now all over the world. So you could say in a nutshell that this timing and this situation could not be better for Corsair, and we're extremely excited to see all the development that will happen during this year.
It is exactly the right message. When I see how so many people could benefit from what Corsair has created in terms of business model, and how much we need to get the word out. For me, my only worry is that we're not able to reach the whole world to tell them that we have a solution. This is my worry. This has been the thing that's been like crippling my dreams, because I see us free. I see us depolluted. I see us abundant. Because the reason why the world is not functioning properly is because some individuals are suffering, and they are creating suffering around them because of their suffering. So if we can come and tell everyone, as many people as possible, that we have a way to make money by cleansing the planet and being free, then it's incredible.
That's it.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
And instead of not believing it, People should come and see what we do because we're doing it. We have the partners, we have the factories, we have the business model, we have the income coming in. So much money has been made by more than 10,000 active partners of the Corsair Connect network so far, and more every week, every month, every year, because we're growing and we're growing fast. And as you said, there is no better time than now to get involved in this business because so many jobs are going to disappear, so many sources of income are going to get totally annihilated because of the recession that's coming, because of the inflation. So of course companies are going to be selling less. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to lay off people. Well, if you have customers who have less income, their purchasing power is going down. You have all the prices that are going up. You have the cost of AI and the efficiency that is literally, the efficiency is going up and the costs are going down. Well, of course, companies are going to be moving more and more towards an automation of everything. So what are these people going to do? When we consider the current, let's say, trend, which is obvious, towards decarbonization of the economy, towards ESG, environmental and social governance, towards a responsible attitude from the companies who want to look good, CSR, corporate societal responsibility. When we look at that and we consider the precedent of carbon credits, in which I was involved back in 2008, when it was not even a thing yet. There was nothing. There were a few markets here and there, and mostly there was talk. And when we consider like how many years it took for that to become a natural regulation, right now, I would say before the regulation passes through is the best time for someone who wants to take, let's say, the right train, to jump on the right train. It's the best time to get involved. Because when the regulation is going to come in all over the world, where we're going to have a global plastic treaty, just like we had the COP16 that gave us the carbon regulation for Europe at least, and a few other countries, but mostly limited to a few countries in the world because of the history of the industrial development of a few countries who have developed much faster and much earlier than others. For example, China or most countries in Southeast Asia have not been forced to reduce the carbonization of their economy because their growth was considered to still be going. We don't have this situation with plastic waste. With plastic waste, the whole world is concerned. 200 countries in the world are concerned. So the opportunity is nothing short of mind-blowing and world-shattering for anyone who can understand what Corsair has put in place, which is not only industrial, but it's also human. And this part is the genius part of the business, because there are so many companies who are already doing chemical recycling or mechanical recycling, does not matter, but who are already recycling. But when we consider that less than 10% of the plastic in the world is being recycled, and that right now with the regulation, not only it's going to become more and more mandatory, but also more and more urgent, because of the direction the economy is taking. So as you mentioned, it's an exceptional point. I did not even think about that. When we consider the energy dependency of most countries to the Middle East, or even to the US and Canada, which also have big reserves, or to Russia anyways, to a centralized power. But that they have so many untapped resources in their own country, which are a problem. Waste is a problem, pollution is a problem, you have to dispose of the waste. Now, if Corsair, thanks to the business that us, the marketers, are doing as part of the Corsair Connect network, if Corsair can create these factories faster, bigger, more effective, more rewarding financially, not only we have solved the problem, but us, individuals, human beings who are the actors in the economy along with companies, us individuals, we are literally regenerating our natural abundance that was stolen away from us by an economic system and political system that is artificial. What Corsair is doing is basically putting back nature in the economy because the concept of waste is not natural, it's artificial. If we put back a monetary value on the waste and that waste actually becomes a resource, we're putting it back in the circularity of the economy, and therefore we're making the economy natural again. And individuals who are contributing to the solution in the way that they think, in the way that they feel, in the way that they live, coming back to our nature of abundance. So it is absolutely exceptional. There is nothing like Corsair and the Corsair Connect business model. Now the limitation is, how do we get more people on board? This is what I'm interested in, and I believe that, although maybe you can touch a word on that, now Corsair Connect was the way that Corsair could start its activities instead of selling equity, right? Corsair could raise funds to actually build these factories and run the business. But now, with the whole trend, the whole global trend, with the increased pressure on recycling, the increased demand for oil, recycled plastic, etc., I believe that you're getting now maybe more funds coming from investors, whether it's big like private investors or funds or whatever, or even banks who want to lend money to Corsair. So of course, individuals are not the only source of income right now for Corsair, but still it's an important part because that's how historically Corsair has been able to develop. So maybe you can touch a word on the investors, maybe with the link with the Middle East right now, maybe some money is shifting more towards what I mean, more money is available because you can maybe tell us something more about that, and most importantly, how Corsair is working so that we can actually work better with more people coming in, more people getting onboarded, and more people basically doing the job and getting rewarded to cleanse the planet and being free.
Well, what we can see clearly is the direction where things are heading globally. So we're seeing more and more regulations being implemented by individual countries. Obviously, Europe is doing that as a whole region, and also in the United States, which is kind of being maybe a little bit left behind from the global development on this area, is now picking up pace very, very fast. We've already now seen nearly 10 different states that have individually started implementing their extended producer responsibility requirements. Their laws, their acts, where companies are now, like in California, already legally obligated to report their use of plastic in their packaging. Now, in Europe, there will be a new law which will become effective around the middle of this year, which is specifically regarding the EPR. This means that when we talk about the extended producer responsibility, I want to highlight on this one that the producer in this context is the brand. It's not the manufacturer, it's the actual brand. So if your company is using plastic in the packaging of your product that you distribute to a certain country or globally, you are now becoming legally obligated to take responsibility of that plastic waste. And from our point of view, and how I see this in a sort of a global scale, is that these regulations are there to, again, build the foundation. So the regulations bring the framework, right? The regulations are coming from the common point of view that, hey, we need to solve this problem. And it's not going to solve it by itself. There has to be regulations. There has to be responsibility that is placed by the lawmakers and the countries to the companies that actually generate this waste. And, you know, you could say that if there wasn't these regulations in place, it would be an ongoing, continuous game of dodgeball where, you know, everybody in the value chain would just try to, you know, avoid getting hit by the responsibility and say, well, you know, it's not us, it's the producer, or it's the customer, or whatever, or it's the country, it's the government. And I've used this example, and I can mention it here, is that in many places, around the world, you see the same events happening. You go with your family to a beach somewhere in the world, maybe here in Asia, with the expectation that, hey, I want to see this beautiful tropical island beach destination, and you go there with this expectation that you have. Once you arrive to the beach, you immediately start to see all the plastic garbage that is over there. Now, the normal reaction for the people would be that, hey, why isn't the government doing something, right? This is the government's responsibility. We're paying taxes, we're contributing into the economy, and somebody needs to take care of this. Well, the governments in the past would basically say, it's not our problem. It's the brands that are actually creating all this waste, so they should take care of it. The brands, again, would come back to the government and say, well, we're not the one who's throwing all this plastic pollution into the environment. Yes, we package our product with it, but it's the consumer, you and your family, who are responsible of this one. So you see, it's like an endless cycle that just doesn't have any solution on it, right? And these regulations are now there to actually identify who is responsible. Obviously, the regulations are brought forward and implemented by the governments, who are very obviously very much saying that it's not their responsibility, it is the brand's responsibility. But it stops the brands being able to push that responsibility to the consumer. Now, by legal implications, it is the brand's responsibility. That is what this whole Extended Producer Responsibility Acts and laws stand for. So yes, that's not the only part of it. There is also requirements placed for the manufacturers. Basically, the petrochemical companies that are using all of the raw materials, primarily virgin crude oil, to create all the chemicals and eventually the raw materials for the plastic packaging manufacturers. But also them are now, as a part of this entire larger solution, made responsible to take action. And for them to now be required to use recycled raw materials in the manufacturing of these chemicals, which is the situation for companies operating in the major petrochemical operations, is a game changer. So, with the regulations, there is now, for the first time in history, there is a clear definition who is to be responsible. And we see the same approach here in Asia, the same approach in European Union, same approach in the United States. It is the brand. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that the major consumer brands, including anybody who is using plastic in their packaging in any sizable manner, is now becoming legally obligated to participate into this cleaning process. Depending on the country, there are a few different ways how this can be done. Either it's the government through a dedicated established body collecting money from these companies, and then the government, or that it can many times even be a combination of government and private contributions that are now then utilized to support these cleaning operations. And we're seeing more and more countries that we are even engaging with directly coming to us and offering for us money to start recycling the waste coming from the country. That is one way how I foresee this to develop in the future. Then we get to the point where it comes to be more dedicated on the individual companies, where again, the most easiest way to solve this problem is by the brands engaging with the plastic credits. That's basically where it all comes down to. And we're seeing a global revolution, a global rollout for the use of plastic credits in all of these countries around Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America, etc. And basically what it means is that the company that is polluting with their packaging the environment at the moment can use these plastic credits to directly support the cleaning operations. Now, while we have the framework with all of these regulations in place, which are needed in order for this to happen, the regulations alone are not going to clean the world. The brands that are now obligated to participate in this one are also not going to clean the world. Ultimately, the cleaning operation will be done by companies and individuals like Corsair and every member of the Corsair Connect community. Because I'll give you a practical example of this. I've sat in meetings, actually just a few weeks ago, where one of the largest oil and gas petrochemical company and one of the largest consumer goods company, together with Corsair, were having a meeting here in Southeast Asia to discuss how the three of us together would be able to create this massive impact and make sure that the beverage company, the consumer goods company's products would in the future be easier to be recycled and how they could use recycled raw material in majority of all of this packaging that they're generating. While they have the interest, they have the intention, they have the desire to make their packaging more environmentally friendly and to contribute into the cleaning of the planet. And while the petrochemical company has very huge interest to be able to supply this major brand with all of this recycled raw material that they need for their packaging, it all comes down to that one missing link, which is who is actually going to do the physical work. You know, another example of this, you and me could sit over here and say, hey, somebody should trim these plants, or somebody should clean the floor over here. And we can talk about it all day long. We can talk about it next week. We can have community meetings. We can have committees. We can set up boards. We can make executional plans and requirements that this floor needs to be cleaned. Every day it needs to be cleaned. It has to be clean. But if neither one of us actually
does the job,
gets on a broom and starts mopping, it's not going to happen. So that's basically where we are in the world today. We got all these requirements. The floor has to be clean. We've identified that whose responsibility it is. And if it doesn't get clean, then somebody has to pay penalties. But still, the question remains, who is going to actually do the cleaning? Well, this is where Corsair comes into play. And in order for us to do that, in any size of significant scale, it's not a one-man, it's not a one-company operation. In order for us to solve this problem, we are going to need a lot of contribution from a lot of people. And the good thing is that there is a very, very nice reward at the end of that road. Because whoever are part of this cleaning operation will be handsomely rewarded. And what we've done as a part of the Corsair business model is we've created a model where there is rewards for everybody who participates into this operation. And that's the unique part of it, because these communities and committees and governments and big brands, they are now willing voluntarily or mandated by regulations to actually pay for that work. But in order for you to clean the floor, or in our case, clean the planet, you need a specific set of skills. And you need a specific set of infrastructure, which doesn't exist. And somebody has to build that infrastructure in order to go out and do the cleanup work. And I mean, we at the moment, 100%, because of the efforts of the community that we built as a global movement, have been able to grow to a situation where Corsair today is, without a shadow of a doubt, the fastest growing company in this specific field. In more specific, in advanced chemical recycling of plastic waste. And the more support we get from the community, the more people learn about the problem of plastic waste, the more people who learn about the opportunities that are provided by Corsair through the earning opportunities in the Corsair Connect network, or in the future opportunities that can be created through the CSR Plastic Credits, are in for a great ride. Now, we have to understand, when we are talking about physical operations, again, people have to be patient. This is not something that happens automatically. We can say, hey, tomorrow morning, I want this floor to be cleaned. Well, you gotta find somebody to come and clean it. You come back here 8 o'clock in the morning and you can say, it still hasn't cleaned, why not? Well, did anybody talk to the people that could clean it? Did anybody contact a person who's volunteering or wants to come and clean it? Or did somebody allocate a budget for it? Or where's the work? Where's the worker? Who's gonna take care of it? And that's exactly where Corsair is. So we have to understand that to build this global infrastructure of plastic cleanup, there has to be a lot of effort going into it. There has to be physical work going into it. And obviously there needs to be funds allocated to make it happen. With all these requirements and regulations, it's becoming easier and easier and easier. For us as a company, it's now becoming easier than ever before to obviously bring in more support to develop these factories around the world. And the community of Corsair Connect is obviously in the very center of our operations. That's the core, where by the sales of our plastic waste removal service, any individual or any company around the world can now participate into this cleanup mission. And as a result of that, be part of the cleaning process. And as a result of that, be able to benefit from these rewards that are down the line being established for the ones that actually do the dirty work. That's the beauty of it. Anybody from anywhere around the world will be able to be part of that solution. On top of that, as you mentioned, we are now at a stage where we've been able to show significant progress and significant agreements with some of the largest petrochemical companies in the world that are urgently wanting to buy the pyrolysis oil that we make from plastic waste. And we have all these other elements and vehicles from the governments that are now helping us to do more of that cleanup work. We've also now seen more and more commercial banks and financial institutions that are also now engaging into this process. Firstly, because they see the opportunity financially, and secondly, because also they, as part of the ESG regulations, are being demanded to be supporting financially this movement. Because again, if the cleanup crew that is supposed to clean up the room don't have the money to buy the mopping and the cleaning equipment, it doesn't get done. So they need that support to go out there and do it. So what we are looking for here, and what I want to explain from this in summary, is that it's a big puzzle. And all of those pieces has to be in there. But the most crucial part is going to be who is actually doing the dirty work. And that's what we're doing. And that's where the global community of the people can all be part of. and as being part of it can also be handsomely rewarded.
It is such a powerful proposition and such a timely moment in history for individuals to literally take the power back. And the name Corsair has not been chosen by chance. The Corsairs are the ones who are literally allowed to hack the system, because the system is rigged. The system is literally crumbling to the ground. We don't know where the economy is going to be going in the coming months and years. But one thing is sure, as you mentioned it, I wish it were different, but as you mentioned it, a lot of people in the middle class are going to see their revenues literally eroding because of the direction it's taking. But the beauty about what we're doing with Corsair is that not only we're making money with something that nobody wanted and that everyone needs to find a solution to cleanse, so we're generating hefty commissions out of that as members of the Corsair Connect network, because Corsair is making money thanks to that, and because in the end it's the brands that are responsible that are paying for that. But not only this, and when someone takes part to the whole plastic waste removal process by contributing financially to the recycling process, when the recycling is done and that the proof of the recycling is emitted, distributed on the blockchain, which is really the genius part also of what we're doing, which was not available 20 years ago when carbon credits started, when the token, which is what we call an RWA, or real world asset, which is based on 100 grams of plastic waste that is recycled, audited, verified, and distributed on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain. When someone has financed this process, they get the proof. And that proof today is worth very little because the regulation has not kicked in. But if we are to believe history, and history usually is a very good teller of what could be the future, if we are to believe the history of the prices of carbon credits, for example, which I consider to be a niche market, when plastic credits, it's a global market. It's a huge market. There is no bigger market in the environmental services industry than plastic waste. It's the biggest market, and by far, because there is such little plastic that is being recycled. So when the regulation is going to kick in, and all those plastic credits that have been emitted by Corsair, and of course distributed and verified, audited as part of a very strict verification protocol, when those credits are going to be needed by companies to justify their extended producer responsibility, what today is worthless, or not worthless, but worth so little that we can consider it as virtually worthless compared to what it's going to be. Just like it happened for carbon credits when the prices surged like 50, 60, 100-fold. For plastic credits, for the Corsair, specifically plastic credits, which we cannot consider to be greenwashing, which we cannot suspect of being double counted, which we cannot consider to be fake or whatever, because all of that is absolutely traceable. Those plastic credits will be so demanded by companies, and there won't be enough. There will definitely not be enough, that the individuals, and this is where I think we have the potential to change the world with this business model, the individuals who will have been forward-looking enough, who will have been visionary enough to take part to this business model, not as investors, although this is an opportunity that now Corsair has been offering since December, I believe, right, of 2025, the possibility for individuals to invest, to crowdfund into Corsair Capital, but not even as investors, as regular customers who have purchased the service of a plastic waste removal service. When the credits will be emitted, when they will be vesting and people get those credits, they will be able to sell them on the markets at the market price, because it's a public market, it's an open market. Anyone can go in and sell their tokens either in a centralized exchange or distributed or decentralized exchange. But I don't recommend to anyone to sell them. I have nearly, I think, 13 or 14 million CSR tokens personally, which I have very gladly contributed towards by purchasing the service, because I have such great faith in the future of our shared responsibility as individuals who are literally paying forward the future obligation for companies to offset their plastic waste footprint. We are literally paying it forward. We're like giving them an advance, but we're getting it at such a cheap price, which they won't have the privilege to get, the companies, because they will get it at the real market value, which will be directly tied to the regulation and therefore the obligation. Right now, the obligation is moral. Like we have individuals and corporations, likewise, we have a moral obligation to be part of the solution. But tomorrow, I don't know when, but at some point, the obligation won't be only moral, it will become also legal. So this is what makes it extremely powerful, because as individuals, we can be part of the solution by getting commissions for the services which are sold as part of the network, but we can also get tokens. We can also get these crypto assets, these real world assets, these plastic credits, which are literally going to be creating transgenerational wealth for the people who are visionary enough to understand what we're doing. And for me personally, having been in the field of carbon finance more than 16 years ago, when I see what happened with carbon, which is not a market that I want to be contributing to, and when I consider what's going on with plastic at a global level, even if Corsair were to reach its goal, which is to produce 1 billion liters, right, of pyrolysis oil by 2030, I don't know, there you could tell us maybe a word or two about those objectives, where we're heading so far. But even if Corsair were to reach its very ambitious objectives, that would still be a drop in the sea. That would hardly be 1% of the world needs. So the market is so big. This is what I'm saying all the time. Like, I'm worried that I'm not able to get the word out fast enough and well enough. And this is my only concern. It's not that the business is not going to work. It's not that the regulation is not going to pass. It's not that there is not a huge opportunity. All of this I know. And so many of us know. My only concern is how can we get the words out fast enough so that people, instead of dreading over what they're losing of this old world, which is going to crumble to the ground for sure, they can rejoice about everything that you can be co-creating together by tapping into this waste resource and making it actually a source of opportunity, a source of profit, a source of abundance.
So as you correctly said, the plastic waste problem and now the associated business opportunity to it is absolutely enormous. If we consider the total production of plastic today, which is around, nobody knows exactly specific numbers, but let's say about 500 million tons or 500 billion kilos per year, which is being produced on an annual basis, which is expected to triple in the next 30 years. Our goal in the coming years, which is to be able to recycle about 2 billion kilos out of 500 billion today, or 1,500 billion in the next 30 years is nothing, right? But the value that is created even with that work is absolutely massive. And on the other side of that, we have tens of companies in the world that on an annual basis utilize and therefore also generate more than 1 billion kilos of plastic waste per year. If you look at companies that are doing between 500 million and 1 billion, I mean, the numbers are massive, right? There's a lot of companies that are doing that. Now, any one of those companies looking to offset their 1 year of plastic waste footprint by utilizing, for example, CSR Plastic Credits, just that one company alone would need more CSR Plastic Credits than the total ultimate distribution of all the CSR Plastic Credits that are currently being developed, CSR, CSR 25, 26, all combined in total. So basically, and again, this is now just a hypothetically speaking, but basically one company wanting to offset their 1 year of plastic waste footprint could eat up the entire supply. Done. So while we don't expect that to necessarily happen, we would like that to happen. That would be obviously pretty awesome. But if you then start to fractionalize it, let's say that there are 100 companies or 1,000 companies or 10,000 companies who all contribute into this one, not once, but every single year. Now you do the math and you start looking where this is going. On top of that, as we are expanding our operations and we are now developing new factories here in Thailand, new factories here in Southeast Asia, we're now moving to commercial operations with our factory in Finland, which is going to result us expanding to a number of other European countries. We're now expanding to North America and other places around the world. As we generate this revenue from the sales of the pyrolysis oil, always now allocate 10% of that sales revenue into our internal buyback program. And as a result of that, Corsair as a company, also from these revenues that we generate from these petrochemical companies, is also now buying back, on top of whatever the brands are in need for, also buying back the CSR plastic credits. As a result of that, there is now basically demand coming from the actual end users, which are the brands that are now legally obligated to take responsibility and are buying these credits from the markets, then retiring them and permanently removing them from the circulation forever. One, because they want to show the impact that they're doing. Secondly, because they are now becoming legally obligated to do so. And again, just one company, one of these big companies, eliminating their 1 year of plastic pollution footprint would wipe out the entire CSR markets in a positive way, right? Wipe out maybe as a strong word, but they would consume the entire market, okay? On top of that, with every single kilo that Corsair recycles, converts that into pyrolysis oil, there's more funds going into the buyback program, where Corsair is buying these credits and placing them to a permanent holding reserve wallet, which do not get retired, they do not get burned, but they will be permanently locked away, never to be released back into circulation. And by doing it in this way, there is this additional demand on the market that is only and only going to grow. With every single new machine, new reactor that you hear being installed in any one of our factories, our production input goes up. That means more money into the buyback program. And I think this year we're going to really start to see that, obviously with the scaling up that we've done. And we just completed, now it's beginning of April 26, we just completed the installation of 3 new machines at our Bangkok 1 facility. We got another 5 machines coming in. We got another about 20 units which are being scheduled. And same thing happening in Finland, these new projects. And there's going to be a lot of new production happening within this year and next year. And also with the launch of additional projects, like for example our factory in Sri Lanka, where we are able to enter new markets, we're going to start to see the buyback program really starting to kick in. Then you take in the third element, which is the speculators. Because anybody who looks at this market, where a couple of years ago, it was still really the time for the pioneers that were like, hey, this makes sense. Like, if we want to solve this problem, this is probably the way to do it. And now it's no longer about being a visionary. Now it's still part of being a pioneer. You're the early adopters, but you are no longer in the visionary bracket. You don't have to be. Congratulations. Because that's a pretty tough, that's a tough group to be in, right? You need a lot of faith, okay, with no guarantee of the future. Now, if you just go ahead and you just do your own research, what's happening with the regulations, what's happening with all the laws, what's happening with the EPR, what's happening with the ESG, how this is all playing out. You don't have to be any more a visionary to put these dots together. You see where this is going. Like, and if you don't see it, then you're too early. You shouldn't join. You shouldn't take action. You should wait for a couple of years and start doing it when the masses start to do it. Right. You know, if you're more comfortable of doing that, by all means, go ahead. But now there's so much substance, there's so much meat around the bone. It's not anymore if this is going to happen. The only question is how fast is it going to happen, and how in large impact and quantities is it going to happen. But it is going to happen. 100%. There's no way that all the governments and organizations and all the work would be flushed down the toilet and everybody would just sit back and say, you know what? Nah.
Let's forget about it.
Let's forget about this. We don't really need this one. I think this is after all, you know, we're fine. You know, this 500 billion kilos of plastic produced annually and all the plastic that is choking our oceans, and there's going to be more plastic in our oceans than fish is not a problem. Like, what are the chances? You gotta be a pretty big visionary if you see that happening. That ain't gonna happen. We've already gone beyond the point of return where this plastic waste problem will be sorted. This floor, as we discussed earlier as in my example, is going to be cleaned. And there is so much dedication, there is so much allocation of resources that we are gonna find somebody who is going to clean this. And we're ready to offer handsome rewards for the somebody who is gonna come and clean up this planet. It's gonna happen.
Something tells me that it's us.
Exactly. Well, we are right there. And with every single day that goes by, our position is becoming more stronger. Like, I can tell you as a practical example here in Thailand, Corsair has a very, very strong name right now. We are being contacted by different local governments that need our help. We're being offered opportunities to take over landfills around the country because they are overflowing with their capacity. There's no way of sorting it. It's mostly plastic waste and nobody's doing anything. They want the plastic out from the landfills, but they don't have a solution. They don't have an operator. They don't have the cleaning crew. Well, we are the cleaning crew. And with every single every single private individual or a company that joins our mission and takes part of this movement by purchasing the plastic waste removal service, they can now count themselves to be part of this operational cleaning crew.
It's huge.
That's the fact. And again, when you look around and you do your analysis, you do your research, I mean, it's unanimous that this problem will be sorted. But somebody needs to do the heavy lifting. Somebody needs to do the work. And we are that. And you as an individual or you as a company have the opportunity to either sit and watch and witness it happening, or you can actually take part and be part of this movement. And again, there are very handsome rewards in every part of this solution.
Jay, with such an incredible opportunity, and we know where it's headed, what is it currently that is limiting the growth of Corsair?
The answer for that question is slightly different today than it would have been a year ago or 2 years ago. Before, I would have said that primarily capital. Today, it's still partially capital. Of course, when we are looking at building new projects and expanding and going as fast as we would like to go. But it's also the general business development from our point of view, where obviously we need that human power to be there to actually make these projects happen. So, number one, you need capital, which is something that we obviously need for the growth. Until today, we've been basically self-financing the entire journey. Now, for the first time ever, we're starting to get action and starting to get involvement and support from the financial institutions, and obviously we've had great collaborations with some of the governments already that have also supported us and our growth. So as of today, it's no longer purely about the need for the resources. It's still very much there, not maybe on a short term, but in a expansion wise. It all goes hand in hand. You need to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place in order to build this operation. You need to find the right locations. You need to find the right people. You need to make sure that you got all the needed licensing and the permitting and everything else. So there's government involvement, which is becoming easier and easier because governments are obviously recognizing that in order for these companies now to go and clean the place, they need the right permitting and the licensing, and it can't take 2 years to get a license to go there because we need the solution now. So there's all these different elements that people necessarily don't see. And then it comes down to the human element. You need to have the right people to develop the project. You need to have the right people to operate that factory. And this also, in our case, is where technology is going to help us greatly. It was actually with you for the first time that I started to talk about the implementation of the AI and the humanoid-style robotics into our operations. What I can tell you is that we have now already started discussions with the largest manufacturers of humanoid-style robots, which there are few around the world. And our target is that within this year, 2026, we would be able to launch a pilot here in Thailand where we would be able to start implementing robotics into our daily operations. Now, whereas the AI will probably create from the, let's say, business owner point of view, financial benefits when entering into the white collar sort of office worker field, where definitely a lot of jobs will be automated by AI. Whereas a lot of work, even on the sort of manufacturing industry and blue collar, if you call them, is also going to be replaced by robotics. Absolutely, 100% sure. Factories will be automated more and more and more. As a result of this, I came up, saw a news where Jeff Bezos is putting together a $100 billion fund to basically start purchasing all types of manufacturing businesses. Basically what they're doing is they're buying these normal, regular manufacturing businesses of doing all types of products that have continuous and also future demand. And then they will bring in, after they buy the company, all the automation and robotics and AI and everything else there to basically reduce the lack of human power, obviously resulting in cost savings and increasing the output and the profitability of the business. So if you have $100 billion and you go out and you buy, I don't know how many, 100, 500, 1,000 different manufacturing companies, big or small, and now you bring in all that automation and AI and robotics over there, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money. If those businesses have a sound business model otherwise, a company producing brick, roof tiling or floor tiling or cleaning products or whatever it is, right? And if you can eliminate massive amounts of workforce by automating it, yeah, you're going to make your money back in big way. So that's what's happening. And that's, without a doubt, there's no question, this is going to transform the manufacturing industry globally. 100% sure. So while that's happening there, and I would say that from the business owner point of view, these type of actions can be kind of seen on a capitalistic way quite positive. If you're just looking at the bottom line of the company, your profits and your value, yeah, sure, just lay off all the people and get robotics to it. From the business point of view, yeah. From the capitalistic point of view, sounds great. From the humanity point of view, sounds horrible. I mean, that sounds extremely dangerous, sounds extremely dark as a future, where basically people will no longer be needed in those kind of jobs, which again makes the opportunity of you to work from home with an opportunity like Corsair Connect even more greater, because it's not only the office workers that are going to struggle with future employment, it's going to be any type of manufacturing work. So while that's happening there, how is this then positive in Corsair side? Well, let me explain you why. Where we as Corsair are looking to expand our operations, we need a lot of human power and human involvement in these different steps of preparing the plastic waste, collecting the plastic waste from the landfills, sorting all this garbage, and then operating and loading the machines and supervising it and such. In our case, when we are in the waste management industry, the work that is currently done by humans shouldn't be done by humans. I don't think that you or anybody else would agree that you would like your mother, your children to work in a waste management plant, or to be out there sorting waste or being exposed to potentially hazardous environments. And of course in Europe and in United States, these are well operated facilities, but they're already mostly automated. In places like Asia, Middle East, Africa, Latin America, it's very much depending on the human interaction. And in my opinion, that's an interaction that we don't necessarily want. It's not a job for the humans to go out and collect this plastic waste or sort all this garbage, other people's waste. No. That is where the technology can actually benefit greatly. We should create earning opportunities and income opportunities and career opportunities, people in the areas where the work is meaningful, such as, for example, educating the world about the solution to clean our planet from this plastic pollution, to be part of the Corsair Connect business, not to be out there in a landfill collecting plastic, if you know what I mean. This is the work where the technology and the robots can do the work. Let the robots handle that one. And this year, we are expecting to, as I mentioned, launch this pilot where we would start to see the first actual humanoid-style robots, not necessarily walking on two legs, but maybe moving on. There's a few interesting technologies that we are looking where they have a sort of arms, but they actually don't move on legs, they move on wheels, which might even be more efficient in sort of a factory-style setting. But definitely bringing that type of humanoid robot element into our operations and working side by side with our human team. In the future, I foresee that Corsair will have thousands of humanoid-style robots working in our factories in different parts of the world, where basically whenever we open up a new plant, we could basically just simply bring in that workforce, a busload of robots that will basically be implemented in that factory. They already know exactly what they need to do. They know the process. The factory has been built to be exactly identical to the last factory. And now with AI and robotics, these are now our 24/7, 7 days a week workforce that every once in a while they go to their docking station and get themselves charged and they're back to it. And in this case now, we are not there trying to cut away the workforce. We are there to build more meaningful work for the people, to actually be there engineering these things, managing these things, overseeing these things, and being part of the development and the cleaning solution rather than out there just picking out plastic waste. So this is something that I'm very passionate right now, and I think we have an angle where the technology and robotics and AI can really be a positive force to be brought into our operations. And being able to combine the knowledge into an AI operating system where basically every piece of data that happens at the factory is collectively in one place, which can then control the daily activities of the sorting of the plastic, the picking of it and loading it, and even supervising the safety elements of the factory can in a massive, massive way increase our output, increase our effectiveness, efficiency, and obviously our profitability.
It's such a huge vision, and I remember when you first mentioned that Corsair was at the forefront of different industries, including, of course, the chemical recycling, so oil industry, but also the environmental services with the plastic credits, which is very innovative. Corsair is one of the rare companies in the world to offer plastic credits in such a sustainable and transparent way. And no surprise that Corsair is now recognized by the United Nations as being a company that is actually sustainable in what we do. But not only in those two industries, but also in the crypto industry, with using this incredible ledger technology that is the blockchain. It can be rigged. You can't cheat. You can't, like, once it's on the blockchain, it's written on the blockchain. No company can change it. With all the $1 billion in the world, it's there. It's on the blockchain. It's decentralized. It's transparent. So we were talking about that, and then you told me, "Hey Sam, you know what? We are also going to be in the AI industry." And I was like, "How is that?" And then you started explaining to me the vision, and I think that really anyone who listens to us today and has eyes to see and can understand that the economy, the way it's been built, was not meant to be for humans. It was meant to be for centralized power. Not for human beings who are, let's say, scattered all over the world. Anyone who can understand that what Corsair is doing right now is to take the power back from the governments, from the corporations, from literally from the pollution, and give it back to the humans. in such a meaningful, straightforward, clear, and simple way that every single one of us who has a smartphone on their pocket or just a computer can become part of the solution, even if they don't have a high degree, even if they know nothing about environmental services or the oil industry or even the blockchain. We are here to literally work hand in hand with anyone who resonates with this message, because we're using technology in such a meaningful way to free individuals from the need to grind to make money. The money is here. The money just has to be, the monetary value just has to be put on the trash. And this is what Corsair is doing. It's so meaningful and so accessible to anyone that really, my only concern, again, I'm realizing it like when I'm thinking of it, my only concern is to not be able to get the word out. All I care about is that, just like me, I got the incredible opportunity to hear about it from my brother Thomas. My only concern is that so many other people, just like me, I got this opportunity, could hear about it. This is all I care about. And anyone who really thinks and resonates will see and will hear. One last thing I would love for you to give us a download on, Jay, is the financial dimension of what Corsair could become with Corsair Pay and the possibility for us to have easier access to payment means, maybe simplify crypto for people who are not too familiar with that. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Absolutely. So over the last couple of months, we've done a lot of work in regards to the Corsair Connect back office. We've developed our own in-house developed back office system, which has now been operational for a little bit over a month, and it's been working very well. We're very happy with the results, and we keep on developing and improving it, and we have some great additional functions that will be coming over there. This was one of the longest ongoing development projects that we've had, where we've actually been developing this for several years, and we ended up choosing the path of doing it ourselves because we couldn't find a supplier that could have given us an easy access to an already existing platform which had those abilities to do what we needed. Now looking back, I'm very happy that we chose that option, because now we own that code. We are actually able to utilize that. It's an asset that we own, and it's a very valuable asset. It goes straight into the value of the Corsair company. On top of that, we now have a affiliate marketing, direct sales, online back office system that we could actually white label and sell for other companies. So this could actually become another revenue source for Corsair as well, by simply now licensing that technology that we built, but it's ours. And the second step that we are then immediately working on, which was already announced as the second phase of the online environment improvements, was our global payment solutions, both for our clients to buy our services easier, and also for the members of the Corsair Connect community to withdraw their commissions generated by those sales at an easier way. We've already done a number of changes and improvements there. We've now utilized, additionally to the USDT solution that we had before, we've also utilized now the USDC, both as a payment and a withdrawal function. Also, we've done a transition from previously using USDT as the trading currency on the open markets for the CSR Plastic Credits. We moved that into USDC in order to be compliant with the European regulations, which was again a big change and a great improvement. And we're at this very moment getting ready to launch the Corsair Pay, which will mean that our partners and clients globally will be able to have an access to our internal payment system. This basically means implementation of a number of traditional bank accounts. It means the implementation of our entire online banking solution in the back office, as well as the future rollout of debit cards and even credit cards, something that I'm not going to say anything more about. But there is, when it comes to the Corsair Pay, Corsair Pay will become and will be eventually, when we look back at this, more of a service of a larger financial structure that we are actually putting together right now, which will then include services like credit cards and other things issued by Corsair. So there's a lot of work that is happening there, but step by step, now it's the payment systems. And also we are then moving towards implementing improvements to the compensation plan of Corsair Connect. This is something that we've already started now putting together. We have built our simulation platform where we can actually run different simulations on simply putting in whatever parameters we want in order to see how does that change the earnings of the Corsair Connect partners. And we are very thankful for all the feedback and the recommendations and proposals that we've received from our global leadership, how we can make this opportunity of Corsair Connect even more attractive, even more rewarding, even more enticing and motivational for people to be part of. And again, coming back to the fact that times like today, with the world events, with increasing inflation and uncertainty on the market, AI going to take out a lot of jobs on the workforce and the work market, people need this new home-based business income that you can do aside from your normal work or your normal career, and maybe turn that into your new full-time career while working from the comfort of your home and cleaning and solving the global plastic waste problem. And if you can make money by just telling people about it, educating people, showing them how they can benefit as well, it's a very, very powerful tool. And we want to now also update, like we've done with the back office and the payment systems, we want to update the compensation model to be also up to date 2026 to meet the next level of growth and the phase of growth that we're expecting globally. So these are some of the things that are happening over there. Now, additionally, obviously, there is a lot of things in play. We are getting ready to launch the second phase of the Corsair Capital crowdfunding operations. We expect this to happen now during the summer, during which we will again open up the doors for private investors from all the European countries, with some additional countries around the world, to join and actually become shareholders of the entire Corsair Group of companies with as little as 100 euros starting with. And again, the fact that we are fully licensed, fully regulated to be able to go out and offer these financial services, the investment opportunities to the public, just again proves the point, or how do we operate as a company. And now, having the second round of the Corsair Connect crowdfunding campaign soon to be launched, the company is now even more valuable than it was last year. We've done a lot of development, our operations have grown, we've done new partnerships, we now even own the back office, we've added assets in there. So it will be very, very exciting for new investors and also the old investors to now see where we are, where the journey and the road is taking us as we continue to grow as a company. Our target is that Corsair in the next few years will be valued in billions of dollars. We are very much in a preparation phase for our public listing of the company. We are still en route with our plans of taking the company to the stock market during the next 3 to 5 years. and by doing that, opening the company and the opportunity for even more people around the world. The fact remains that when these kind of things happen, at that moment, you wish you would have been part of the visionary group that yourself and Thomas and other people are obviously part of. We've been all working and contributing our sweat and our blood and our tears by being part of those visionaries, like so many other of our brothers and sisters around the world. But now, today, if you feel that you see where this is going, if you believe in this vision, if you believe in this direction, you and everyone else still has the opportunity to be part of the early adapters, the pioneers of this business. Because once we start talking about going to the stock market and these kind of things and more factories, well, the pioneers and the visionaries will be the ones that are going to be obviously rewarded even greater. And at the moment, as I said earlier today, we are still in the very, very early stages. And even with these ambitious targets that we are doing right now, trying to reach what can be considered a major, major milestone achievement of being able to recycle, for example, 2 billion kilos of plastic waste annually. It's just a drop in the ocean. It's nothing. It's only the beginning. And there is no stopping. There is no ceiling. There's no market limitations. There's even no competition. Think about it. There's no competition on the plastic waste recycling industry. As you said, at the moment we are recycling somewhere between 5 to 10% of all this plastic waste that is being generated annually. At the same time, the production of new plastic is growing about 10 times faster than the development of the recycling infrastructure. There's no competition. We're not going to see any competition in this field for the next, my guess is 20 years. Wow. And somebody says, yeah, but there's a new company that's doing this and they're building a factory over there. Fantastic. Great. I wish them all the best. We collaborate with many of those companies, and this industry needs more players. With more operators, with more good companies and more investments, everybody's going to benefit. Because it means that there's more and more actual real-life impact. We need a lot of development, a lot more operators on the plastic credit industry. The more that industry becomes regulated, clear rules of how things work, the better. Because that means that by more impact, with more regulations, with more rules being implemented, which we are 100% up for, it means that more bigger companies now are looking and able to interact. So either voluntarily or mandated by the regulations. So all of these things are coming into play. And the opportunities that are there right now for people to still be part of the pioneering phase is something that in the future are going to be documented. Books will be written about it. Interviews will be made about it. The early adapters will be praised and recognized for their great vision and question, how did you know to take action? What made you to do that? You got involved so early and now we are here and we've done all these things. Yeah, we've seen it happen so many times. You mentioned Bitcoin, it's a great example. How many interviews, how many stories have been written about people who got in early and they did this and they didn't necessarily even know exactly what they were getting involved with, but they had the gut feeling that, hey, yeah, this is probably going to do something. This is probably going to be something in the future. Well, in our case, you don't even have to have the gut feeling anymore. I mean, everybody has the gut feeling now. Just walk to one of our beaches and see the plastic waste there, and you'll agree with us that this has to be changed. And if you agree with the fact that we need to clean our planet from all this plastic pollution, then you'll also naturally agree with us that somebody has to do the work. And whoever is going to do the work has to be compensated. And now, with the model that we built, anyone around the world can now be part of that cleaning mission.
So obviously, we know that we are in for an incredible ride that will remain in history as being a pioneering movement, that of plastic credits. Now, the question that's on all the lips is, where are these plastic credits going? What are they going to be worth? What are the people who have been pioneering this business going to be reaping in terms of benefits? It's hard to predict, but the direction is clear. Would you have some maybe vision or some at least hope for this market in the close to mid to long term?
Well, let's say like this. We can clearly see that this is an industry that's going to grow. Plastic credits as asset class and as a digital receipt for the plastic waste removal, as in the case of CSR, is definitely going to grow both in demand and in value. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of companies in the world that, by simply wanting to offset their 1 year of plastic waste footprint, would basically need to consume the entire future, currently non-existing circulation of all the CSR plastic credits. So the reality is that there is not enough plastic credits to satisfy the demand. And how could there be? If only 5 to 10% of the plastic today that is being produced is getting recycled, even if every single kilo of that 5 to 10% would be documented and certified and eventually result in issuance of credits, it's an impossible equation. So by, for example, considering that if 10% of the plastic pollution generated annually would be offset by using credits, there wouldn't be enough, any credits in the world. There wouldn't be enough even recycling work that would result in the issuance of those credits. So therefore, we see a great future for the entire plastic credit industry. It is the most straightforward, most simplest way of any companies to actually take immediate action to support the collection and the recycling of plastic waste from the environment. And we also therefore see, with increased demand fueled by regulations and voluntary involvement, we see the value of all the plastic credits to grow significantly in the future. Now, what makes the CSR plastic credits so unique? First of all, CSR plastic credits is one of the only plastic credits in the world that is actually only and only issued for plastic waste that is recycled. Many of the other operators, and I don't want to talk down on them, they do issue credits based on burning. Or collection only. In our case, the plastic credits, the CSR plastic credits, can only and only be issued after the physical plastic material has been recycled either chemically by Corsair or mechanically by many of our contributing partners. But the plastic has to be recycled. That's the only way that those credits can be, after third-party auditing, to be issued and distributed. On top of that, what makes Corsair and the CSR so unique is the fact that we have our buyback program. Because the reality is that whereas we expect the value of plastic credits to grow as an entire market, okay, there's going to be a certain level in the future that companies will be able to pay for those offsets. And when they are required to pay, and the penalties of not taking responsibility are going to be heavy on them, they will pay an increased amount of money. And there will be a competition of who gets their hands on this limited amount that is there. And then there's going to be speculators that are going to look at it and say, okay, I better buy a huge chunk of the credits today, hold on to them, because once the market goes up, these companies are going to be fighting over them, and I can then unload them and sell them again on a profit. So there's going to be a lot of these kind of things happening in the future, and I believe that the trading market is going to become very, very active. And we're going to start to talk about no longer in volumes in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. We're going to start looking at volumes in millions and eventually growing into billions annually. So the market is going to be massive of what is needed by these end users. Now, what makes Corsair and the CSR so unique is the fact that with our buyback program, we will continue to allocate money from the sales of the oil and now even from the revenue that we are receiving from these gate fees, where in many countries around the world, we're actually getting paid to take the plastic raw material, which again will contribute in revenue, out of which we will take a portion of and place it into a buyback program. With the buyback program in the background, we don't care about what's the market price. We're just going to continue to spend that money on the open market to buy back these credits, which are then becoming more and more and more limited, reducing, less and less and less and less existence. Because with every single buyback, those credits are placed into the treasury wallet and never to be returned back into the market, which again now creates a future where once the plastic credit end users have consumed the market, and as we can see by a very simple market analysis, have pushed the price to extraordinary levels, which will be probably several multiples of whatever the market is today. Once they've consumed all of those credits at that level, the next phase that will kick in is the demand coming from the buyback program. And because of the buyback program, there's no ceiling, there's no limit, there's no limit where the value could develop, because with more production coming from the oil sales and the gate fees, Corsair will continue to place more and more and more funds into the buyback program. And now, April 2026, with the unfortunate situation happening in the Middle East, the price of oil is trading at an all-time high, at unprecedented levels, which means that, again, while nobody wants these type of crises and these kind of situations, which is going to speed up the inflation and make everybody's lives more difficult with the increased cost of fuel, one thing is for sure, this is a good time to be in the oil business. So that also means that our contracts that we are negotiating with the petrochemical oil and gas companies are becoming also more valuable, which means that with every liter, more money goes into the buyback program. With all of these things in place, as a conclusion to my statement here, we see a very, very interesting, very rewarding, and very positive future for every single holder, every single owner of CSR Plastic Credits, and generally speaking, for all the plastic credits on the market.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's been such a ride. We could keep on for maybe hours because there is so much to say, but it's already been such a blessing to receive all these downloads on not only the present of what I like to call the best business in the world, but also the future, which is extremely bright in a world where everything is going south. I think we can say confidently that we are going up and we are definitely here to stay because we are needed. Thank you so much, Jay.
Well, thank you very much.
And let's keep up the great work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And thank you everyone for your attention. I hope that we could give you a glimpse at what we are working on, what we are preparing, and how welcome you are to join us on this journey, which is really made for all of humanity to rise above the pollution and to really become the solution. Let's make it happen.